Hey everyone, welcome to Motorpsychology from wherever you are in the world. My name's Jonathan. If you're a new viewer, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I really appreciate your support. So in today's video, I'm going to be starting to remove the upper right control arm so I can change the bushings and also change the ball joint as well. So I got a feeling it's going to be a really tough job. So I've looked at this for a while, and based on the way that things are set up, it's going to be a royal pain. So stick around, let's get into this video and see how this job goes. So you remember in the last video, I got the hood off, and that's great. So it really opens up the space for doing other work. So you can see in this part of the video, we're looking at the upper right control arm, and it's attached with a couple bolts, and in this case, 3 shims here. And over here, there's another bolt with some more shims as well. Looks like there's 3. So challenges for me are going to be getting this out and also getting this out. And there's things that are in the way, like this fan shroud is not going to give me the type of room that I want. So here's another view. Ultimately, I need to get this off, and remembering how many shims are in there. And also, the work that I need to do is I want to replace these bushings in here. So my goal is to get this upper control arm off, give it a refresh, a repaint, clean it up, put in new bushings, which are going to be poly bushings, and then reinstall it. But you know, looking at this, unless I want to cut this fan shroud, which I don't want to do, I'm not going to be able to get this off successfully. There's absolutely no room to just pull that out. So what is going to happen is I'm going to at least have to take this fan shroud off to be able to do this part of the control arm. It also is possible that I may have to remove my air conditioner compressor, which is here. I hope I don't have to do that, but I might. And I probably have to do something with this little deflector piece of metal as well, this fan belt deflector or fan belt guard as well. So this is the back part of the control arm. That is going to have to be somehow maneuvered out, and I'll need to have a better look at it under there to see exactly how far I can get away with pulling this out without removing other parts. Definitely the fan shroud has to go off though, for sure. Before I get into any work, I'm going to spray these down with PB Blaster or another penetrant. I've got 2 types, but I'm probably going to use the PB Blaster because that's always been effective on what I'm usually using it for. And I'm going to let that sit for a couple days before I actually get into this removal process. I'm going to be moving ahead with getting this control arm off early in the season because I still have the left side to go. So I didn't want to remove the left and the right at the same time. I wanted to remove, let's say in this case, the right side, get it all done, get it all installed again. So that way, if I need a model on how to figure this out, I can always refer to the right side as I'm doing the left. And I've used that principle as well for this job. Is I'll do the right side and I refer to the left if there's an area that I'm not sure with. And in this case, once I have the right back together, I'll be able to refer to the right as I do the left side of the suspension. So I know this is going to lead to a whole bunch of other things that are going on. I've got a new core support. I'm likely going to be doing that at the same time. And as mentioned, I will be doing the water pump down there at the same time. I'm not too sure what the future of this air conditioning thing is. Obviously, I'm going to keep it, get it recharged, and get it working again. And that will be interesting. As well, this job is going to require removing the fan. It's not very difficult. There's just some bolts down there that you have to take out. Okay, as mentioned, I want to put on some penetrating oil on this nut here, because I'm thinking that hasn't been removed for 44, 45 years. So just going to squirt that. And I'm also going to squirt the other side. Right. So I've got the penetrating oil in both those spots. I'm going to leave that overnight with the penetrating oil, and then hopefully tomorrow I can come back and get some of this stuff off. There's the other nut and bolt for the other side of the control arm right there. We've got the two there. We're going to let those sit overnight. I'm just working on some of the nuts and screws that could be seized or difficult to get off. So I'm working on the 4 nuts that secure the fan blade to the shaft there, and then I'm going to work on the screws that are on the air scoop that is right above my hand, and I'm also going to be working on some of the screws and bolts that are on the fan shroud and also on the radiator core. I'm working on some of the screws that are holding the air conditioning condenser, which is that huge thing down below which looks like the radiator, but it's not. And also I'm going to be working on some of the other areas like the hinge for the hood. I'm also spraying down the screws that are on the core support. There are 3 down on each side, so I'm going to move over and do those. That is in advanced preparation for when I want to take the core support off, which is likely going to be in the next week following this video. Here I'm working on taking the nuts off of the studs that are holding the fan in place to the end of the water pump. I'm also taking apart the air scoop that goes into the air cleaner and getting that ready for removal as well. Here I'm using a very soft tipped hammer to gently tap the fan blade off of the shaft from the water pump. And that's just enough tapping that it gets it loose enough that I can pull it off the shaft. However, I still can't get it out of that area until I remove the air scoop, which I'm going to do in just a minute. I'm definitely giving it a try to see if I can squeeze it out of there, but it's not going to go until I get that air scoop out of the way. So moving on to the air scoop removal, there's a few screws that need to be removed and they are attached to the radiator core support. Once those are out, it's just a matter of kind of sliding that air scoop off of the core support, and when that's done, the air scoop is off, and then there's a lot easier access to that area to get the radiator fan out. With all the screws that I take out, I usually put them in Ziploc baggies that I label to let me know what the screws are and where I got them from, and that way I put them into storage. I keep them there until I'm ready to reinstall this stuff, and if I need that hardware, I know where to find it and I can pick it up and use it. So I'm getting the fan out right now. I'm going to have a look at the fan clutch, see what condition it is in. It's got a bimetallic spring that's on it, so when it heats up, it engages the clutch, which then engages the fan as well. So if I can clean it, great. If not, I'll get a new one. So the next step here is going to be getting this fan shroud out of there, and we'll see how that goes. So we're working on getting the fan shroud out. I'm going to start working on this side and then moving on to the other side as well. The size of that screw is 3/8. So it's got a little clip on the back here, and we'll take that out. It should work okay. That's coming out super easy, thankfully. That's out. And there's a little bit of movement on the fan shroud. I'm going to go over to the other side here and do that one. Great, that's off. Won't need this here at this time. I do have some new ones of these. Looking down the side here, taking some mental notes how this fan shroud sits on top of this existing radiator. And that'll be important when it comes to putting it back on. So you want to see that line sitting right against the edge of that radiator. Hey everyone, just wanted to check in. I'm still in the process of getting this fan shroud out. I've got the two top screws off of it, and now I'm going to go underneath the Corvette and try and get the attachments for the shroud out of there. And then, with any luck, we'll be able to get the shroud out. Once the shroud is out, then we're on to getting those control arms off. There's just a couple little metal clips that keep the fan shroud pinched in between the core support and the bottom of the radiator. Once those are out, you can push the fan shroud back and get it ready for removal. So we've been able to disconnect the fan shroud from this area. Now it's going to be a matter of pulling it out, and I don't know if it's going to come out easily or not, but we'll give it a try and see how it goes. Well, that doesn't look like that fan shroud is going to come out. So the next step is going to be to remove the radiator. So the job is just getting a little bit more intense and a little bit bigger. So to get the radiator out, got to loosen some nuts, some bolts, and then drain it and lift the radiator out. So that's what I'm going to be getting into real soon. Part of the retaining bolt for the condenser for the air conditioning. Okay. I'm taking off the radiator clip here. It gives me a little bit more room to push the radiator back. I'll do that on the other side as well. Same thing on this side. It's the bracket that's keeping the air conditioner condenser in place. So nice to get that off. And let's try this one. Alright, got that clip off. Now let's take off this. That gives me a bit of wiggle room, and let's see if that makes a difference. Alright, let's see if we're lucky here. Maybe we'll push that quite a bit further into the core support. Hopefully enough. Time to get the rad out. So it's going to take a while. I've got to disconnect the upper and lower rad hoses, and then I'm going to pull this radiator out of this Corvette. So let's get started. So I'm going to try and get this rad out. I'm thinking that I'm going to pull it from the bottom, but I'm not too sure, and we'll take it as it goes. So the first thing to do is to empty the fluids out of it. My old core support is rusted at the bottom. I've got a brand new one that I'm going to replace it with. So I may pull it from underneath, or I may just lift it to the top. So we're going to see how that goes, and let's get into it. So I'm going to be draining the radiator right now. So this is what I need to open up to drain the radiator. Then I can take this rad hose off and a couple of the automatic transmission lines off as well. So let's get into getting this sucker off. Just opening this valve really slowly to make sure I don't get a ton of this fluid come out at once. And a good idea is just to open it slowly, bring a catch tray pretty close, and let it flow. The fluid looks pretty good, really good. That should be enough. Now I'm going to pop this off. It's just a little pinch clamp there. Coming off, no problem. There we go. So, moving on to the upper on the other side. Taking this one off. Pretty straightforward clamp. Slide that one down and then pop this off. Getting there. There we go. Keep that up. Now we'll be moving on to the lower rad hose and also the little hoses that go to the automatic transmission as well. I'm down here working on the lower rad hose. The hose clamp is just a standard hose clamp that you have done screw. Once I get that off, I will be trying to wiggle that rad hose off of the radiator. So typically they're more difficult to get on and off. This particular hose I don't care about. I'm not going to use it again, so I'm going to expand it a little bit and it should slide off really well. Push that out of the way. I'm sure there's lots of ways to do this. I didn't actually cut this hose, but I used a long standard head screwdriver and just pried it into the space between the hose and the bottom of the radiator, and then just tried to expand it, let whatever fluid was still in there out, and then also go around the circumference of the hose and just kind of stretch it out a little bit so that it would be easier to pull off the lower radiator. It wasn't very difficult, and it took about as long as what you're seeing here in the video to get it done. Just think, I'm doing all this to get the upper right control arm off. You just gotta think about the goal, keep moving ahead, staying positive, and it's all good. This will also lead, obviously, to removing the core support and more than likely refurbishing the radiator or replacing it completely. So just staying positive and looking towards the end goal here. Okay, lower rad hose is off. I'm going to undo those two. So there's one a little bit higher and one a little bit lower. So I'm going to take those off, and then the radiator should be disconnected. So I'm going to do that right now. There, I've got the transmission cooling lines off of the radiator. So now all the lines, all the hoses are disconnected from the radiator, and I'm ready to remove it. So now the radiator is completely disconnected. I should be able to slide it out, hopefully, or at least get the fan shroud out for now. Let's give that a try, see how it goes. So I'm just checking out the situation, wiggling the radiator around, seeing the best way to get it out. It's clear that it's going to have to come out through the top. I'm just working underneath the car here just to wiggle the radiator and get it at a good angle that it will be able to be pulled out without any real difficulty. So once you have it disconnected like this, you know, it's kind of heavy, but it's not really difficult to get out. So check it out. You know, sometimes a lot of these jobs are good with an assistant, but at the same time, I do a lot of work on my vehicles by myself. So I always find that there's a way, in most circumstances, get it done yourself. It may take slightly longer and a little bit more steps, but it's totally doable. And it might look awkward, but you know what? I got this thing. There we go, we've got success on this one, so we're moving on to the next part. Okay, now that the radiator is out, should be able to get out this fan shroud. Let's hope. Still a big piece. There we go. Nice. I'll finally be able to start on the control arm. Wow, lots of junk in there. I will vacuum that out, and then, as you can see, you guys, over here, great access to the control arms. And then on this side, down there, you can see that I now have access to that upper control arm, which is going to be perfect. So I'll start getting that out. There's the radiator. I'm going to clean that up and get it checked out and either replace it or refurbish it. And over there is the fan shroud. That's going to get totally cleaned and freshened up so it'll look like new when it goes back in. Okay, we're now at the stage where I'm going to try and take these out. So I've noted that there's 2 big shims and 1 little shim in there, and I'm going to try and crack this for the first time and see how it goes. That was pretty lucky, I think, to get that off so well off the get-go. I think the other one in here is going to be a little bit harder to reach. Just putting a little bit of WD-40 on it. Not really to loosen it, but just to give it a bit of lubrication coming off this last bit. There it goes. Success on that one. Now to work on the one in here. So to get the other nut off the front control arm, I'm going to be taking off this fan belt. I'm not going to be using it again, so I'm just going to cut it. Now I'm going to be taking off or loosening this plate so I have access in there. So I'm going to give that a try right now. And there's another bolt down there, which I'm going to try and loosen. Perfect. And just to take note how this runs behind the radiator hose, and it should come out now. There we go. So we've got the fan guard removed, and I'm going to keep everything together. Keep the bolts in it, keep it all as one piece. Moving on to the final nut here, I'm hoping that it's going to come off with not too much problem. I've got lots of room to use my tools in there, which is my goal, and I'm going to give that a shot now. Give it one final spray.
Ultimately, you want to take these nuts off very carefully, because the last thing you want to do is to strip the bolt, particularly the side of the bolt that is pressed into the frame. So it's actually pressed into the frame, and if you do strip that, then you've got another problem, another mini nightmare and they are very difficult to get pressed into that frame without a major amount of work.
Oh, easy. Surprising. That was the best case scenario, I believe. You can see how shot that bushing is in there, so it'll be so nice to put in some new bushings. There we go. Got that one out. Okay, the next step is to remove this slightly, so I'm going to use a pry bar and do that gently, and that should give me the leverage that I'm looking for. I'm going to be removing the shims. That's for that part. And let's take these shims out. Oh, this removal.
At this stage, I'm just working on the inside of the wheel well. I'm lifting the ball joint up and over the frame so that I can push the control arm into the engine bay.
There we have it, the removal of the front control arm. So the bushings are shot. They are going to be the first things to be removed and replaced. So there's the upper control arm, not nearly as big as the lower control arm. It's out. I'm going to be removing that ball joint and getting rid of all the dirt and rust on this thing and refurbishing it, putting in new bushings and things like that. Hey everyone, as you can see, that concludes the video on removing the upper right control arm of the C3 Corvette. It's not the easiest job. There's a lot of processes that you have to do. So in this case, I had to remove the fan shroud, the radiator, and cut the belt to the air conditioner and remove that air conditioner little fan guard as well. And then after that, I was able to take the control arm off. That is keeping in mind that I already had the lower suspension off, including removing the shocks and all those type of things. So next on the agenda is going to be removing that core support. Now I have all the stuff out. And also I'm going to be refurbishing that upper control arm and putting new bushings in it, and also a new ball joint. So those are coming up soon. Thanks again so much, you guys, for sticking around and watching these videos. They are interesting, they're fun to make, and I'm making them to support the C3 Corvette community out there on YouTube. And we'll get back into making another one very, very soon. Thanks a lot for sticking around. Don't forget to subscribe, really appreciate it, and I got lots more coming. So take care and see you in the next video.